Welcome to the Power Your Voice podcast. I'm Delane Blazek, clinical counselor turned chief commercial officer and coach. This is where entrepreneurial women learn to grow revenue while staying all in on who they are. We're talking about real-world issues and nothing's held back. Have you ever looked at your referral partners, strategic alliances, affiliates, or channel partners and wondered why they aren't sending more business? Maybe you've invested months building relationships. Maybe you've created referral incentives, and maybe you've even attended networking events. You've signed partnership agreements and celebrated the fact that someone else was finally going to help you sell and you didn't have to do it anymore. But guess what? Nothing happened. Or maybe a little happened. A referral here, a deal there, an opportunity, but necessarily not enough to justify the time, effort, and the optimism that you invested. Today, I want to talk about one of the biggest misconceptions I see among female entrepreneurs and startup founders of all kinds. And it's the belief that partnerships will save a weak sales process. Spoiler alert, they won't. In fact, they often expose one. And today we're going to discuss why your channel strategy may be failing and what you can do about it. Let's start with a very simple distinction. There are two primary ways companies generate revenue. Number one, sales, direct sales. And number two, channel sales, partner sales. Direct sales means that you or someone on your team owns the customer relationship. You generate the lead, you conduct the discovery, you understand the problem, you propose the solution, and you close that business. Channel sales means someone else helps bring your product to market. That could be a referral partner, an affiliate, strategic alliance, technology partner, even a reseller or influencer, or possibly another organization that has access to your ideal customer. Now, here's where many entrepreneurs get into trouble. They fall in love with the idea of channel sales before they've mastered direct sales. And that's dangerous because channel sales is not a shortcut. It's an amplifier. It amplifies what's already working. So think about it. If your sales process isn't working, channel sales simply amplifies the confusion. Let me give you an example. Several years ago, I worked with a healthcare technology startup. They had a very innovative solution. The founders were smart and the technology was strong. The market opportunity was huge, and they believed they had found a faster path to growth. They wanted to keep the headcount lean, so instead of hiring salespeople, building a lead generation function, and investing in a traditional go-to-market strategy, they decided they would primarily use channel partners. On paper, I'm sure it looked brilliant. Why hire expensive salespeople when other organizations already have customer relationships? Why invest in prospecting when your partners already have access to buyers? And why even bother building a sales infrastructure when somebody else already has one? So the founders became excited. The leadership team became even more excited. And then the investors became excited when they looked at the forecasts. But then something happened that I see all the time. The forecasts got ahead of the reality. And the company began forecasting revenue based on assumptions rather than proven execution. They hadn't consistently sold the solution themselves yet. They hadn't even validated the messaging. And they really didn't fully understand buyer objections in this industry at all. At the end of the day, they didn't have a predictable sales process. But they built revenue forecast as though the channel partners were going to immediately to begin producing significant dollars. And all those forecasts looked very great on paper, but the reality turned out to be something very different. The first mistake they made was assuming that the channel partner would prioritize their product over all of the other ones that they represented. Some of those other ones were easier to sell. They had larger commissions. Some of the other ones had stronger brand recognition, required less education. And guess what happened? Those products received the majority of the attention, not because the partner was lazy and not because they were incompetent, but because salespeople focus on what is the easiest, most profitable, and most familiar. The startup assumed they would become a priority. The partner viewed them as one option among many. So the second mistake was underestimating the amount of onboarding and training time that was required. Many entrepreneurs think that channel onboarding consists of a quick kickoff meeting and a PowerPoint deck. Guess what? It doesn't. Successful channel partnerships require much more, including training, coaching, role playing, joint customer calls, pipeline reviews, business planning, performance management, ongoing communication, accountability, and consistent reinforcement. The startup expected the partner to run independently, 100% for them, too. And instead, the partner needed continuous support. No one had planned for that. Remember, we're keeping headcount low. And the third mistake was the most damaging. The company stopped investing in direct demand generation. They weren't attending conferences. They weren't exhibiting at trade shows. They were not even creating thought leadership content. They weren't building prospect databases. They had no system at all. And they weren't generating inbound interests. They essentially had outsourced their growth. And when you outsource your growth before you've mastered it yourself, you lose control. So as a result, months passed. The partner closed a couple of small deals. Everyone celebrated, got out the champagne, and the company thought that the model was working. But those early wins created a false sense of confidence. Larger opportunities, they never materialized. Pipeline wasn't growing. The forecasts were repeatedly missed. And eventually, the partner sales team became frustrated. The deals took longer than expected. The commissions were not significant enough, and the product required too much education. The sales cycle was more complicated than anticipated, so they did what naturally salespeople do. They focused everywhere else. The startup suddenly found itself in a very dangerous position. No owned pipeline, no direct customer relationships, no internal sales engine, no predictable lead generation process, and absolutely no control. And then the investors began asking questions. Oh, yeah. The board began asking all of those questions, and the leadership team was trying to find the answers. Everyone eventually reached the same conclusion. They had confused access with execution. Just because someone has customer relationships does not mean they know how to sell your solution. And just because someone agrees to carry your product does not mean they're committed to growing your business. Eventually, the company had to rebuild its go-to-market strategy from scratch, completely redid it. Finally, they hired salespeople. They invested in lead generation. They attended the right conferences with the right follow-through. And they developed thought leadership. They really learned how to sell their own product. And only then did the channel strategy begin to work. So that's a lesson. Channel partners should accelerate proven success. It does not create success because if you don't know how to consistently sell your product, nobody else is going to magically figure it out for you. So inside the Power Your Pay program, we teach entrepreneurs something I call revenue ownership. You cannot outsource your confidence. You certainly can't outsource your value articulation, and you can't outsource customer understanding. Those things must come from you first. Then you can teach someone else. Then you can scale. Then you can amplify, but not before. If you're considering partnership today, ask yourself one question. Can I consistently sell this myself? If the answer is no, your next step isn't finding another partner, another collaboration. Your next step is strengthening your own sales foundation because no one will ever tell your story better than you. Thanks for tuning in to the Power Your Voice podcast. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. You do have what it takes to be a successful woman in business. And if you're ready to step into new levels of success, subscribe, share, and join me next time as we talk about building revenue and the life you actually want. Until then, stay all in and keep powering your voice.